I was born when she kissed me, I died when she left me, and I lived a few weeks while she loved me. Do you like it? Welcome back to our channel. In the rich tapestry of classic Hollywood, where many timeless legends have left their mark, Humphrey Bogart's name stands out as an unforgettable icon. He was a man with a tough, stoic exterior that was tinged with romance. Bogart embodied the spirit of a legendary Hollywood, where stories didn't end on the screen, but continued into real life. But what really cemented his place in history was either Humphrey Bogart's extraordinary talent, his career built on timeless roles like Rick Blaine in Casablanca and Sam Spade in The Maltese Falcon, or the complicated stories of his personal life, filled with troubled relationships that made him such a cinematic legend. Art wasn't just an actor, he was a paradoxical figure. Even though he had a successful career, his life was full of dark sides, from his cold childhood and failed marriages to his troubled relationship with Lauren Ball. Let's look into the life of Humphrey Bogart, a man who lived in two different worlds: the bright light of fame and the dark shadow of secrets that few people really knew. Born on Christmas Day 1899 in New York City to a wealthy and powerful family, his father, Belmont DeForest Bogart, was a famous heart surgeon, and his mother, Mary Bogart, was a nurse. Mother Ma Humphrey was a skilled illustrator whose work for big magazines brought her a lot more money than her husband, which wasn't common in the social norms of the time, but money couldn't fill the emotional void in Bogart's early years. His parents were both very busy with their careers and keeping up their social image, which made the home environment cold and distant, where love and affection were rare. Warmth and comfort seemed like extravagances to her. She was ambitious and strong-willed, and she often kept her son at arm's length, even demanding that he call her Ma instead of mother. This emotional distance left deep scars on Bogart's mind, shaping him into a man. Bogart had a hard childhood. Even though he went to prestigious schools like Trinity and Phillips Academy, he did not do well in school. Instead, he was a rebellious boy who didn't want to follow the rules and was often punished. His defiance reached a peak when he was abruptly expelled from Phillips Academy, ending his family's dream of him going to Yale University. This pushed him off the traditional path his parents had envisioned. Bogart looked for meaning elsewhere. In 1918, when he was only 18, he joined the U.S. Navy as the end of World War I was drawing near. His time in the Navy not only gave him a unique experience, but also left a lasting mark, a scar on his upper lip that was reportedly caused by an accident while he was on duty. The details of the scar are unclear, but Bogart kept it mysterious, making it an important part of his tough guy image on screen. This was the first step in shaping Bogart's character. Bogart left the Navy in 1919 and went back to civilian life, but he was still lost. He tried a number of jobs, including sales and even professional chess playing, but couldn't find his true calling. It was during this rough time that an unexpected opportunity in the performing arts presented itself. A friend told him about a job as a stage manager for a theater company. It was a small start, but the closeness to the stage and the chance to work with actors made it worth it. Bogart's journey from a rebellious boy to an aspiring actor had just begun, and it was his unwavering determination to find meaning in what seemed like failures that set the stage for a future Hollywood legend. After discovering his love for the stage, Humphrey Bogart made the brave decision to pursue a career in the arts, even though he didn't have any family support or formal training. At first, he worked behind the scenes in theater companies, but his interest and drive led him to become an actor. He wanted to perform, so he tried acting. His first chance came in 1921, when he got a small part in a stage play with only one line. Taking the stage for the first time made him realize that acting was his true calling. From that moment on, Bogart began a long and difficult journey to make a name for himself in the arts, even though he got off to a rough start. During the 1920s, Bogart mostly appeared in stage productions, but most of his roles were dull and lacked depth. He was often cast as dashing young, for example. One of his most famous roles during this time was as Willie with the white pants, a classic character that didn't leave a lasting impression on audiences. Despite criticism from critics, Bogart remained undetermined. He saw these years as a practical education where he honed his understanding of character, psychology, and grew used to the pressures of the stage. More importantly, his struggles during this time taught him to be persistent and strong. In the late 1920s, the entertainment industry was changing, with Hollywood becoming a major cinema IC hub. As cinema became more popular, theaters started to lose their appeal, and Bogart saw a chance to start a new career. He signed a contract with Fox Studios and started making $750 a week, which was a lot of money at the time. However, his move to movies did not immediately pay off, and he was cast in a lot of bad movies in his early days in Hollywood. In small roles in movies, he usually played boring or uninteresting characters that didn't make a big impression on audiences or critics. It wasn't until 1935 that Bogart got his big break with the role of Duke Man in the stage play The Petrified Forest. This was a major turning point in his career. Playing Duke Man, a dangerous but psychologically complex gangster, let him break free from the limitations of his earlier roles, and his chilling and deeply layered performance captivated both audiences and critics. The Petrified Forest's success on stage opened doors for Bogart in Hollywood. When Warner Brothers decided to turn the play into a movie in 1936, Bogart's co-star, Leslie Howard, pushed hard for him to keep the role of Duke Man. At first, the studio didn't want to cast Bogart because they wanted to cast the more famous Edward G. Robinson instead, but Howard's persistence paid off, and the movie became a huge hit, making Bogart a name to remember in Hollywood. This breakthrough not only marked a turning point in his career, but it also not only showed off Humphrey Bogart's acting skills, which he had worked on so much on stage, but also helped him become known in Hollywood after his big break in The Petrified Forest. But his path to becoming a top star wasn't easy. In the years that followed, he was mostly cast as a gangster in bad movies like Crime School and Dead End, even though Warner Brothers and other major studios saw him as a secondary choice for villainous or supporting roles. Bogart got through this phase with patience and determination. Instead of fighting the system, he worked on developing his tough guy image, which he did very well. This image reflected the toughness of his on-screen characters and also reflected his own personality, which was strong, honest, and deeply reflective. In 1941, Bogart's career really took off with two important movies, High Sierra and The Maltese Falcon. His role as Roy Mad Dog Earl in High Sierra was a big deal. Bogart's performance as a man torn between a desire for redemption and a defiant, reckless nature showed that he was more than just a criminal. It was a performance that gave a character that was usually just a criminal depth and humanity. Shortly after, in The Maltese Falcon, Bogart solidified his position as a leading actor by playing Sam Spade, a shrewd, cold, and razor-sharp private detective. Bogart introduced audiences to a character unlike anything they had seen before. The movie was a huge hit and is now considered a classic in the film noir genre. Bogart's signature style was shown in Sam Spade, who was tough, magnetic, and unforgettable. But Casablanca, in 1942, as Rick Blaine, a cynical bar owner in Morocco during World War II, was the most important role in his career. Bogart delivered a performance that masterfully blended toughness with emotional vulnerability. The role not only made him a star, but it also changed the course of his life. Casablanca was not only a big hit at the box office, but it was also hailed as one of the best movies of all time. Bogart's lines, especially the famous "Here's looking at you, kid" line, became legendary, and his chemistry with Bergman created one of Hollywood's most memorable love stories, even though they weren't close off-screen. With Casablanca, Bogart went beyond being an actor and became a cultural icon. The character of Rick Blaine was everything people liked about Bogart, a strong. After Casablanca, Bogart continued to build his reputation with a string of hit movies. He reunited with Lauren Ball, who would become his wife in movies like Have and Have Not, The Big Sleep, and Key Largo. These movies not only made Bogart more famous, but they also made him more believable on screen as a tough but thoughtful man. Bogart also showed how versatile he was by playing a variety of roles. His performance in The African Queen, 1951, earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor. In addition to his usual roles as criminals or detectives, Bogart's performance as a grizzled riverboat captain showed how well he could bring complex, multidimensional characters to life. However, Bogart's on-screen success couldn't hide the trouble in his personal life. As his career took off, his personal life was full of contradictions and problems, from failed marriages to his passionate but controversial relationship with Lauren Ball. Bogart lived a life that was both. Join us as we continue to look into the less well-known parts of Humphrey Bogart's personal life. He was a Hollywood legend, but his flaws and scars showed how human he really was. Humphrey Bogart's life was not just the story of a great movie star, it was also the journey of a man who was always looking for peace in love and navigating turbulent relationships in his first 3 marriages. Bogart seemed caught in a whirlwind of strong emotions, but his first marriage to Helen Menon, a talented stage actress, was out of balance. Menon was a beautiful woman, but their relationship lacked the harmony it needed to last. After only a year of marriage, the couple quietly split up, leaving Bogart feeling let down and realizing that love wasn't always as long-lasting as he had hoped. With Mary Phillips, his second wife, they were together for almost 10 years, but their careers took them in different directions. Phillips did well on Broadway and found happiness and stability in the theater, while Bogart struggled to find the same things in his relationship. Bogart became more and more interested in Hollywood, which offered both glitz and stress. Their lack of physical proximity and different life goals slowly tore their marriage apart. They divorced amicably, but Bogart still felt like he wasn't where he belonged. His third marriage to Mayo Methot was the most troubled. Methot was a strong but emotionally unstable woman with a volatile temper and an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. 2 strong-willed people who couldn't find common ground had frequent and dramatic fights. Their fights were so famous that Hollywood tabloids called them the battling Bogarts method. During their fights, they often threw things at Bogart, like ashtrays and lamps, turning their marriage into a real battlefield. Bogart, who was usually more reserved, chose to endure the chaos in silence, but eventually the turmoil got to be too much for him. It was during this stormy marriage that Bogart met Lauren Ball on the set of To Have and Have Not Ball. At the time, she was 19 years old and a model who was starting to act. She radiated youth, intelligence, and striking beauty, and for Bogart, who was 45 years old and tired of his own problems, Ball was a breath of fresh air. Their 25-year age difference didn't bother them. In fact, it made their relationship stronger. Ball was drawn to Bogart's worldliness, wit, and charm, while he found in her a renewing energy and a deep connection he had never felt before. He was seeing Methot, and he knew that telling the public about his relationship with Ball could cause a scandal, but their love was too strong to hide. The times they spent together on set helped them get closer, and in the end they were able to get past all of their problems. Bogart divorced Methot in early 1945, and just 11 days later, he married Ball in a simple ceremony in Ohio. This was a big turning point in his life. It was the first time he found real peace in love. His marriage to Ball was not just a romantic story, it changed everything. Ball was more than just Bogart's wife, she was also his companion and muse. She put her career as a rising star on hold to care for their family, giving birth to 2 children, Stephen in 1949 and Leslie in 1952. For Bogart, becoming a father was an unexpected but deeply satisfying role, and Ball helped him find a new side of himself as a devoted family man who valued the small but meaningful moments in life. Even though the relationship seemed perfect at first, problems did arise. Bogart continued to drink heavily, and at times the age gap and differing lifestyle differences caused problems, but they learned to work through them through love and respect for each other. Bogart often said that Ball helped him find himself, and she remained the most important person in his life. A lesser-known fact about Bogart's personal life was that he had an affair with Verita Peterson, his wig maker, for 17 years. The affair started before Bogart met Ball and continued during their marriage. Peterson often visited Bogart's home under the guise of... Even though they had to keep their relationship a secret for work reasons, Bogart's deep love for Ball never wavered. She was the love of his life. Humphrey Bogart's personal life was a vivid tapestry woven with light and shadow. He was not only a movie icon, but also a man with flaws and weaknesses who was always looking for meaning in love and life. Behind the bright lights of Hollywood, Bogart stayed a deeply human figure, strong, sensitive, and endlessly complex in Humphrey's last years. Bogart's life was marked by both the glory of a peak career star and the shadow of a terrible illness that slowly destroyed his body. Even though he was at the top of his game with a string of classic movies, he couldn't avoid the harsh challenges that fate had in store for him. His heavy smoking, which was a part of both his real life and his on-screen persona, started to take a terrible toll on his health by the early 1950s. He ignored his persistent coughing symptoms because he was known for being tough and stoic, but his loving wife, Lauren Ball, couldn't stand to see the man she loved get worse, so she pushed him to see a doctor. In 1956, doctors told Bogart he had esophageal cancer. This was devastating news for both him and his family. At first, doctors were hopeful that surgery and chemotherapy could help because the cancer was found early. Even though lymph nodes were removed, the cancer kept coming back. More rounds of chemotherapy failed to stop the disease's spread, leaving him weaker and weaker. The illness turned the once strong and resilient man into a shadow of his former self, but his family always stood by his side, caring for him and trying to keep their family spirit alive. Humphrey Bogart stayed dedicated to his craft until the very end. His last movie, The Harder They Fall 1956, was not only a memorable work, but also in this movie, Bogart played a tough but deeply emotional man, which was based on his own inner struggles in real life. His performance received a lot of praise, proving that he was an irreplaceable legend, even in his last moments. On January 14, 1957, Humphrey Bogart died at home at the age of 57, leaving a void that could never be filled in the lives of Lauren Ball, his family, and fans all over the world. His funeral was a solemn but proper event that was attended by friends of Humphrey Bogart, such as Frank Sinatra, Spencer Tracy, and Catherine Heron, were there to say goodbye to their beloved co-worker. Ball, who was known for being strong, stood silently next to Bogart's casket and said a simple but deeply emotional goodbye. Goodbye, Bogey. Even though he was gone, Bogart's legacy lived on in the hearts of his fans and in the annals of cinema history. With over 75 films to his name, Bogart created an unforgettable image of the tough, emotional man he was. Bogart was not only a symbol of Hollywood, but also of strength and dedication. Movies like Casablanca, The Maltese Falcon, To Have and Have Not, and The African Queen were not only cinematic masterpieces, but also lasting testaments to his extraordinary talent. Beyond his famous roles, Bogart changed the way people saw movies. He wasn't the stereotypical perfect hero, but a complex character with flaws and contradictions that made him relatable and deeply human. This set a new standard for acting, and generations of actors have since followed suit. Stars like Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and Jack Nicholson have all said that Bogart inspired them to give bold and nuanced performances. Bogart's legacy is not limited to the movies he made. It also includes the story of his life. He was a man who passionately faced every challenge head-on and constantly looked for meaning in love and life. His devotion to his family, his deep love for Lauren Ball, and his unwavering determination against a cruel disease created a portrait of strength that lasted until his death. After Bogart's death, Lauren Ball continued to love and respect him. In her memoirs, she wrote, "No one could have written a love story more beautiful than the one we lived." These words not only summed up her love for Bogart, but also his life. He was more than a great actor. He was a symbol of a golden age. He was a testament to the power of art. He was a synagogue of the human capacity to endure and success over adversity. More than 50 years after his death, his name still shines like a torch in the movie world, and in the hearts of all who loved him, Humphrey Bogart stands tall, strong, unwavering, and forever immortal. Humphrey Bogart, whose name is linked to Hollywood's golden age, was not only a great actor, but also a symbol of strength and emotional depth. From his cold and distant childhood in a wealthy family to the difficult path to the top of his career and the personal struggles he faced, his life shows this. The struggles and conflicts he went through are truly inspiring. Even though he carried the scars of his past and failed at love, he never gave up on his dreams and never doubted his own worth. What do you think about Humphrey Bogart's inspiring journey? What impressions has he left on you through his famous movies or the story of his life? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to keep watching more stories about Hollywood. Goodbye to the next video.